NFL, always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pitch, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust up, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. The Wicked Wednesday has begun. You know how we roll on the Wicked Wednesdays. We got a full house on the program. Brady Cannon steps up and in straight for the strip in Las Vegas, Nevada. Paul Bovey joins us from abroad, being the traveling man that he is. Ian Cameron, a.k.a. Babano, in the house. The Rager Redhead, Cam Stewart. Countdown to kickoff is on the NFL playoffs. There's a lot of news and talk about the vacant coaching positions in the National Football League, but we do have some games to be played. And weather, I don't know if weather is going to be a factor as far as like impacting the football game, but it's going to be cold. And you're going to see a lot of fear-mongering going on right now with the media. Extreme conditions in Buffalo on Sunday. No, you know what you call it? Wintertime in Buffalo on Sunday. All right, it's supposed to snow. And you know, I'm seeing all these reports out there. You know, like you would think that like there's a snow tsunami coming or something like that. There's going to be 4 to 8 inches in Buffalo over the weekend, so there will be snow and temperatures, whatever, dude. That could be like in the 20s or the teens, which I'm not saying is comfortable, right? It's not ideal, but it's not cold. Like, you know, we've been wussified so much right now. People think, like, I remember when the Super Bowl was in Tampa a couple of years ago when it was the Kansas City Chiefs. And the Kansas City Chiefs, the only time they lost when Tampa won. Tampa played at home. Right? So the Kansas City Chiefs, there were a lot of talk about that game. Well, what's the weather going to be like in Tampa? It's a little colder and stuff. Like, really? I think Lamar, I think the Buffalo Bills, and there's a lot of talk, too. People are saying, wow, this is an advantage. If it's snowing, like it's supposed to be wet snow, so sort of that rain, wet snow, and but it's not going to be windy. But people are talking about well, it's an advantage for the Baltimore Ravens because they run the football better than the Buffalo Bills. Well, the Buffalo Bills run the football pretty effectively as well, and Lamar Jackson does play in Baltimore, but if it was like really, really, really cold, I trust Josh Allen more in brutal cold than I would Lamar Jackson. But weather's going to be something's going to be discussed a lot. I still don't understand why the Baltimore Ravens are favored in a football game. But we'll get to a lot of football talk tonight. We'll get a lot of picks on the program. Let's get to college basketball right now off the top. Last night, we gave you the USC Trojans to win and cover against the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I said it would be a track meet. They nearly scored 200 points in a basketball game last night. The total was like 161, and I said, well, it's high for a reason. And they both cashed. Tonight, let's attack this thing SEC style. So it feels strange to say that, but SEC style. We've got the Oklahoma Sooners taking on the Texas Longhorns. Obviously, the Red River shootout / rivalry is always intense, no matter what sport it is, not just football. So it's a big-time basketball game. The Texas Longhorns have owned Oklahoma. All right, they've beaten them 7 straight times on the hardwood. Yet I get the feeling tonight it's a Sooner night. The Sooners are laying 2.5 points. The total's 149.5. We're going to stay off the total for now. We'll stay off the total for now. We'll sort of monitor this thing in-game and see if there's a spot for us to step up. But I do think that Oklahoma gets it done on their home court tonight. Norman is a super hard place to play. They're a dominant home team. This is a good Texas team, not a great Texas team. Oklahoma's played a tough schedule. And, yeah, they've been punched in the mouth a couple of times. They also have a couple of nice wins this year as well. But give me the Oklahoma Sooners. We'll go money line on the Sooners. You got Utah State and UNLV coming up at 11 o'clock Eastern. We'll get back to that. The Aggies are 5.5-point favorites against the Rebs on the road in Sin City. Total 148.5. Late night NBA basketball this evening. You know, tricky once again. You got a shorthanded Miami Heat team. Miami are getting 4.5. Although Bam is back. Right, Bam has been cleared to play, so Bam Adebayo is back for the Miami Heat. This feels like a Heat spot, actually. Getting Bam back here. You've got the Jimmy Butler talk, and it's funny now there's talks that like Jimmy Butler's agent and Jimmy is open to returning to the Miami Heat now. And I saw a report earlier today that the Miami Heat were considering like extending this suspension. I wouldn't want him back. Well, you know, what's the point at this point? You know you're going to trade him, so figure it out and trade him. And quite frankly, the Miami Heat are so well coached, right? And now Tyler Hero's getting his shots up right now. You got Bam coming back. I just don't trust the Lakers laying the points. I'm not anti-Laker. You know, I think the Lakers are a competitive basketball team, but I don't trust the Lakers enough to be laying 4.5 points in this game. So, my opinion, let's pull the trigger with the Miami Heat. You're getting 4.5 in this spot. NBA basketball tonight. There has been some upsets. The Raptors, big-time win against the Boston Celtics tonight. The Raptors were 14.5-point underdogs. They won the game outright in Toronto. They got smoked by like 54 points by the Celtics a couple of weeks ago, and I should have pulled the trigger on the money line. Like, nobody's going to believe in the Raptors and stuff, but the Raptors have a better ATS record than the Celtics do. The Raptors are very good ATS. They just lose all the time, but they cover the point spread. But I knew, when I saw that, I was like, damn, that's right. They lost by like 54 a couple of weeks ago to these dudes. Like I said, man, this is like gut check time. Like, I don't care what your record is. It's just sort of like a pride gut check time type of deal. And the Raptor players said after, they were talking about it, they said, man, after what happened the last time we played them, we weren't going to let it happen again. And the Raptors actually won by double digits tonight. The Brooklyn Nets, speaking of double digits, are getting 15 points against the Los Angeles Clippers. We got 2 LA teams in action tonight at the same time in the same city at that. The Clippers, of course, now have their super cool new own arena at the Intuit Dome. Man, 15 points, a lot of points to be laying in any NBA basketball game. So it would be underdog or pass for me. I'm not laying 15 points with the clip show here. And in fact, what are we getting in the first quarter? Man, we're getting 5 points with the Brooklyn Nets in the first quarter. I'll tell you what, the Clippers are slow starters. You're also getting 9 in the first half. I'm going to roll the dice here. Let's have some fun with this. We're going to take the Brooklyn Nets plus 9 in the first half, and we'll take them plus 5 in the first quarter as well. I could see, whatever, man. It might be 22-4 in a couple of minutes for the Clippers, but I'm going to roll the dice and take my chance that the Clippers start a little slow here, and they're going to have to come back to win the game outright. But 15 points is a lot of points. I like that first quarter plus 5, and First half +9 as we are going to pull the trigger right now. These are spur of the moment plays. And I'm not gonna roll the 15. I'll roll the dice with the first quarter. We'll get a feel for it as it rolls on. So +5 Brooklyn Nets first quarter, +9 Brooklyn Nets in the first half. As I stated, anybody that tunes into the show knows we're always on during these Clipper games, and they're often, like I said, they're often slow out of the gate. Like the Clippers are, you'll look up and you're like, damn, the Clippers, like the other night they were losing big early. You look up at the Clippers, you'll be like, damn, they're losing by 12 early. More so than you'll look up and go, wow, the Clippers are rolling early, right? The Clippers sort of like, they'll spot you points and then they'll chip away and they'll come back and they'll win the basketball game. But I just think these numbers are too high. So give me the +5 first quarter, +9.5. Miami Heat plus the 4.5 against the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooner Red River shootout. Boomer Sooner wins. Let's roll this.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Let's do this thing. This is SportsRage. I am Morency, SportsGrid Radio and Television Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. Well, we got a lot of stuff to break down as countdown to kickoff is on. NFL playoff football on Saturday. The Lakers and the Heat have started. As we stated, we took the Miami Heat plus the points. We took the Oklahoma Sooners on the money line. And I rolled the dice with the Brooklyn Nets +5 in the first quarter and +9 in the first half against the Los Angeles Clippers. So we'll keep our eye on what's going on in the association. College basketball, as I stated, we got a UNLV game coming up. And, oh, yeah, Washington and Purdue, this game already started. It started at like 9:30 Eastern time. Purdue were 7.5-point road favorites. They're down by 7 right now, 24-17 in Seattle against the Huskies. In-game totals all the way down right now to 129.5. So pretty low-scoring game. And this is the spot, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to look at to jump in here. Let's just monitor this total, and if it gets a little bit lower, let's pull the trigger. It's a lower-scoring game, but I got to believe this is once we get to the mid-120s or something like that, it's not going to take much for us. We've got to get to the 60s to win that bet. But speaking of winning bets, let's bring in one of the best in the business, Brady Cannon in the house, the Ranger Red and Cam Stewart here. We've got Paul Bovey joining us, Ian Cameron, a little bit later on. Brady, we'll get to the golf in a couple of minutes. Let's start off in the National Football League, and we'll get right down to it. The Houston Texans played in their customary Saturday early afternoon slot last week, and they've won 5 of those games before. It's almost like rinse and repeat with the Houston Texans. They've been good in that spot at home. They win. They've never advanced past this divisional round before. They're 0-5. So they've never won a road playoff game. They've never advanced past this round before. And we've seen them have to go to Kansas City before. But from everything that I hear from some pretty smart people, a lot of people like the Houston Texans plus the points in this game, Brady. Where do you stand on this right now?
I'm one of those people too, Gabe. I think the number's just out of whack. I mean, these two teams played not too long ago, and the Chiefs were favored by 3.5. And where's the 5-point swing come from? I mean, okay, yeah, the Chiefs have looked a little better since they last played. They've gotten a little healthier since they last played. And they've had 23 days of rest when you include the starters, Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, those guys, because they didn't play in Week 18. I don't know, maybe that's worth a point. I see this line being closer to 6, not 8 or 8.5. You get to this time of the year, the divisional round and the wild card round, the team that wins the game typically covers the spread, meaning underdogs win outright and favorites, when they win, they cover. But I could see the Chiefs winning and not covering. We've seen that movie 1,000 times, right? I would take the points for sure, and I think the Texans do have a chance to win this thing outright. I played it safe, teased it to the other side of 14. I certainly don't see the Chiefs winning this one by more than 2 touchdowns. I basically went against the masses. What I'm seeing as far as the majority of the action, it's on the favorites and one dog. It's on the Chiefs. It's on the Lions. It's on the Rams, and it's on the Ravens. And I just kind of, went the other way on all of them because I think I feel it's the right side, not just wanting to be contrarian. I really think it's the right side.
There's been a lot of talk about the Houston Texans and somehow their demise because they didn't live up to lofty expectations, but they still won football games. They dealt with numerous and litany of injuries on offense, but what's not being talked about with the Texans is their defense, and their defense is good, and it's better than just good. It's really good. And, you look at the Kansas City defense, guys, they give up 19.2 points per game, 4th in the National Football League. Houston Texans are right there at 21.3. So I don't think Kansas City are going to be able to just go up and down the field on them, Brady, right? Like drives are going to be, it's going to be work and an effort for the Chiefs to put points up on the board. And this might be wishful thinking a little bit, but something clicked with the Texans last week after that one play, right? Sometimes it's all it takes. One save in hockey, the goalie on a breakaway or a slam dunk or a block in basketball. Like sometimes it's just one play, guys. It was the Texans offense was going nowhere. They were getting frustrated. It was a broken play. C.J. Stroud turns it into something. And then you just sort of saw it just started to click for them again a little bit. And they're playing with house money, guys. It's the one thing, too. All the pressure is on the Kansas City Chiefs. I know the Texans, I just said, Cam, they've never won. They've never been past this round before. So, obviously, they're not playing for participation trophies here, the Houston Texans. But with all that being stated, they do match up well. And as Brady stated, we've seen this before in the playoffs. And in fact, guys, I don't have to remind people, the Texans were up like 24-0 on these guys before in a playoff game, right? So the question is, can that offense, because we know the Chiefs' defense is going to be elite, right? I think the Texans' defense can keep them in the game. It's going to be up to the Houston Texan offense, Brady. Can they move the football? If Stroud can come up with some first downs and put some points on the board, we got ourselves a game, and they could potentially win the game outright.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's going to be about the Texans offense. And last week they were able to do it. You talk about that broken play. They snap it over C.J. Stroud's head. He scrambles. He throws it for 34 yards. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for the Los Angeles Chargers. But I tell you what, the Chargers have a pretty good defense too. And so they were able to, solve that riddle, if you will. That I think that gives them some confidence going in here. It's a familiar opponent. I think it's a lot about Joe Mixon. If Joe Mixon can have a good day, that seems to be the formula for beating the Chiefs year in and year out. If you can run the ball, like the Ravens, we expected them to do it in the AFC Championship last year, and they never did. Run the ball, run the ball. If Joe Mixon can run the ball, I think C.J. Stroud will have success. He has a lot of weapons. Obviously, Tank Dell no longer around. He's injured, but I still think he has enough weapons through the air to get to this Chiefs secondary. And absolutely, if the defense plays like it did last week against the Chargers, they're going to be right in this thing. And like you say, Gabe, not only a cover, possibly an outright win.
Yeah, it just feels like a 24-21 type of football game. All right, we'll get into the other games on the other side. And, of course, the American Express. Let's roll.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I'm Morency on a Wicked Wednesday. I tweeted this out. We spent some time talking about it last night. The odds are up, and you can bet the NFL head coaching vacancies. So I decided to pull the trigger because eventually these odds, and I'm getting pretty good numbers too. This is definitely one of those things that you've got to look around, right? It's not like a point spread or something. Like the turnstile is generally going to be the same. The numbers will be a little bit different out there. And they are, and I thought I got a pretty good number here with Ben Johnson, the Detroit Lion offensive coordinator, to be named the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's finally come down right now. I'm seeing a plus 175. I bet it at plus 275 earlier in the day at the same book, Brady. So it's actually moved. They're starting to catch on, I think, a little bit here. Pete Carroll's the second choice at plus 500. But you're in Vegas, so you hear everything. I follow Vinny Bonsignor, a buddy of mine. I know Adam Hill as well. Yep. I read the Review Journal, and so I'm all on top of the Raiders stuff too. But you're actually there. And speaking of people, what are you hearing about this? Because word is, listen, Tom Brady's all in on Ben Johnson, and I think that Brady, this is going to be another victory for Brady. He's going to get the guy that he wants to be the head coach.
Well, I think you've spelled it all out there. Adam Hill, a friend of mine as well, and I follow Vinny as well, and I'm hearing the same thing, that's the guy Brady wants to bring in. And we know Tom Brady, he typically gets what he wants. I mean, that's what we've seen throughout his career. And I also think he absolutely has Mark Davis's ear and Mark Davis's checkbook. So whatever Tom is able to get done to make this thing happen, I think Mark Davis is going to say, yes, sir, what do you need? No problem, Tom. I mean, it's almost like Davis is working for Brady at this point. And the Raiders really needed that, Gabe and Cam. I mean, it's been decades. I mean, what is it, 20-plus seasons with 2 winning seasons or something like that? And when you had, obviously Al Davis was a football man. He started the whole darn thing, right? But now his son, and this is no offense, he's just not a football guy. He's really good at some other things. He's not great at football operations, and that's what we've been kind of clamoring for here in Las Vegas. We've got to have a guy that really knows how to run a football team. And I'm not so sure Tom Brady is that guy, but I think he's a piece of that puzzle. And so I think Brady wants to build that, and he's seen it done in his own before with the Patriots, certainly, maybe on a smaller scale with the Buccaneers, but I think he eventually wants to build that here at Allegiant Stadium. And I think this is probably the first piece of the puzzle here. So I'm with you. You know, if that's the guy Brady wants, I think it's going to be hard pressed that it won't happen. The other thing, I think the only thing that maybe could lose your bet here, Gabe, is if he once again decides to stay with the Lions, because he's got a pretty darn good gig, you know, as the best offensive coordinator in football for the best offense in football and making a couple $1 million a year. But, you know, hey, do you want to make huge money and do you want to try and run the whole show? Most guys, the answer is yes.
And you can't turn down NFL head coaching opportunities every year before they stop coming. Right.
Yeah, right.
So at some point, you want to be a coordinator forever. And speaking of which, Ben Johnson declined. He didn't like the Commanders. They actually met last year.
Yes.
Before they hired Dan Quinn. And there's a story out there that he goes, these guys are like basketball people. They own the Sixers and they don't know anything about football. And Washington's a train wreck. I don't want any part of this. Now they're playing each other. Commanders, are they live? I saw that. Are they live? I saw. How about this, guys? Favorites in the divisional round in the NFL playoffs. I don't know if you guys saw this. I retweeted it. Are 18-0 straight up. So you just said, man, that's pretty crazy, right there. But can the Commanders hang around with the Lions, Brady?
I think they absolutely can. I think this line's inflated as well. I think the true line is probably closer to 6 or 6.5. Now, the one reason this has gone to 9.5 is certainly teaser protection. And I'm a little surprised they didn't move the Chiefs there as well. I think there's been some action on the Texans taking this down to 8 or 8.5. But, you know, the Lions were kind of in that 8 neighborhood for a minute, and then we saw it go to 9 or 9.5. And I think that is just teaser protection. And then the Eagles are there, 6.5. You know that all three of these teams are going to be involved in money line parlays and teasers, and one of them's going to upset the party. One of these favorites, I think, is going to go down, and my vote would be the Chiefs, Gabe.
Yeah. You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to be on the side of the Commander teaser as well. Everybody is going to there's going to be 80% of people are going to be pulling the trigger on those Detroit Lions minus 2.5 teasers and stuff.
Yep.
I'd rather get the Commanders up to plus 16.5. Roll.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Texas Longhorns up 22-14 right now on Oklahoma. The in-game total is 149.5. That's what it was before tip-off, so it's right there. There's like 10 minutes left in the first half, so the Horns are off to a good start. Remember I told you it was 129.5 with Purdue and Washington. It's 127.5 right now. It was like 144.5 before the game started. So we're up to 50.
Fordham score? 113-111. In overtime, 113, Fordham and UMass, 220.
They've got a track meet there.
Oh, my God.
242.5 is the end game. But as I was saying, Purdue and Washington, now's the time to jump in. It's 127.5. The total was 144.5 before the game started. So you were getting a little bit of value here. And Purdue are too good offensively to get stuck on 44 points, guys. They've scored 22 points here. So let's jump in here on the over. And that UMass Fordham game, in-game total is 242.5. It's because they're in triple overtime right now, so that game won't end. So let's go over 127.5. All right, Brady. So the Rams and Lions. A lot of people like the Rams this week, and like people that I talk to on the East Coast and the Philadelphia market are concerned about this football game. What's your take?
Well, I feel that the Rams are becoming, I don't want to say a public dog. I think there's probably sharp people and the general, recreational bettors. It just feels like everybody is on the Rams. And I kind of want to go the other way because of that. I'm not positive Philadelphia is going to cover the 6 or 5.5 or whatever it is currently at the moment. I made the number 6.5. If there was one favorite I was going to lay it with, it would probably be Philadelphia. What's interesting about the Rams is how much their defense has improved in the last month or so. This was one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL, and I thought that would be great for the Philadelphia Eagles. We know they can run the football with Saquon Barkley and Kenneth Gainwell, but is there a defense out there that can really make life easy for Jalen Hurts throwing to his 2 prize receivers? And that was the Rams with their very weak secondary, and that could show up at any moment. And maybe they can scheme and figure out a way to puncture that secondary throughout this game. I wouldn't be surprised. But this defense has been really good. The pass rush this guy Verse out of Florida State has been great all year long. We got to see him on a big stage this past weekend. The pass rush has never really been a question, but the coverage, the secondary has. Concerned about that unit for Los Angeles. I like the Eagles here. I think they're going to win the game. And like you say, Gabe, and like we illustrated earlier, teams that win the game in these, first couple rounds of the playoffs also tend to cover the spread.
What's amazing, the other night I was on the Rams, but I took Jared Verse to record a sack at plus 140 against the Vikings. The Rams had 9 sacks. Verse did not have one of them somehow.
Oh,
did he have a touchdown? He had a touchdown.
He had 9 of them.
Did he?
He caused the fumble, whatever. He caused a bunch of chaos. And there's a great clip and video of him talking to the team on the side because they were all basically they're like, how many sacks did you get, man? They were like, I got 1.5. You and 2. I got 2. And Verse is standing there. And Verse says, he goes, I can't effing believe. He goes, I didn't get one. He goes, I've been trying. He goes, I keep trying, man. And they're all laughing. And they said, you don't have 1 sack tonight? And he's like, no, man, I didn't get one. It was just too good. Not as good as the Caleb Williams video that we tweeted out
Sean
tonight,
McVay.
though.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about, is this guy the best guy? Go ahead. My bad.
I think he's an awesome coach. But exactly, about McVay and the Rams. Can they dig down deep into the emotional tank again? Right? You had the fires last week. Some of them had to evacuate. They lost their power. They dug down deep. They went to Arizona. They handled their business. Matt Stafford, who has been around a long time, was pretty emotional about it after, actually. He said, this meant a lot to us. He said, this meant a lot to us, and you guys, we really, really, really put a lot into this for the people of L.A. and didn't want to lose this game. Can they find that again? You know what I'm saying, Brady?
I absolutely do, and it's interesting that you bring that up. That was part of my thinking for this next upcoming contest with the Eagles as well. But now you jog my memory. The Rams kind of have been through that all season long. If you remember that very first game, I guess it was I think it was the first game for the Lions. They played the Rams. It was Stafford against his old team. The Rams put it all out there, an incredible effort, and they came up short. They went back home, I believe it was the next week, and they got flattened. And there was that seesaw pattern that they had in a few different instances this season where they had this incredible effort where they just left, emptied the tank, left everything on the mat and, come up short, win or lose, whatever. And then the follow-up effort, they would get smashed. And maybe they're setting themselves up for that again. I don't know if they're going to get smashed because they've improved. They're healthier than they were at the beginning of the year. But yeah, they expended a great deal of energy emotionally and physically.
Why are the Ravens favored? Has anyone told you, does this surprise you that the Baltimore Ravens are favored in Buffalo?
It does not, but I think it's very telling that Buffalo opened as a favorite. And I know a very well-respected odds maker here, the guy that took over for Jay Cornegay, John Murray. He feels that the Ravens and the Bills are their team at the Westgate Superbook feels that the Bills and the Ravens are the best 2 teams in football. And they put a real emphasis. They do give a significant advantage for home field advantage in Buffalo. And what he was alluding to is, home field advantage, as you guys know, is more or less non-existent these days. But he said, we do give some to Buffalo, and we feel these are the 2 best teams in football. They opened as Buffalo as a favorite. So that tells me something. What we've seen out of Baltimore lately has been incredible. They look like the best team in the NFL, and maybe they are. So I think the masses here, the betting public has gravitated towards the Ravens. Now, I figured they would be a 1.5 point favorite. When I crunch all the numbers, and a lot of that has to do with the latest numbers, the Bills have been in some shootouts. Their defense hasn't been as tight, in a few games at the end of the regular season there. So the numbers tell me the Ravens should be a 4 point favorite, but I'm not buying it. I really think the Bills, I think this is their game. And I love the fact they're at home. I love the fact that they opened as the favorite here. And I love the fact that now they're in the betting minority. So for me, and from a betting standpoint, I think no matter who closes as the 1.5 point dog here, guys, you tease them up to plus 7.5. For me right now, that's Buffalo. And I think they're going to win the game.
I said it last night. If I was Sean McDermott, I'd have it up on the board.
Yeah.
Baltimore -1, and people would walk in and they'd be like, "What's that, coach?" And I'd tell them that's the point spread. That's what they think, right? So as you stated, and we've talked about it, like 3 points is generally used to be home field. They would put it in, bake it into the cake, so to speak. That's changed now 1.5, 1.8 or whatnot. But Buffalo, like you can't dispute it. Buffalo haven't lost at home this year. They're 9-0 on this field, right? So like they do have a little bit of a home advantage. They did beat Baltimore in the playoffs a couple of years ago here too, during the COVID year. There was when there was barely any fans in the stadium. All right, so there's Brady's take. We got Paul Bovey coming up. We got to get to the golf. We'll keep Brady for a couple of minutes on the other side and get his golf picks. We'll get Cam's golf picks for the American Express before the break. So the TGL last night, guys, once again, it was Tiger Woods. I fell for it. I said, you know what? I'll take the plus 137 with the Jupiter Links.
Oh, and then, you Tiger, didn't do that, did you?
I did. I thought Tiger.
Fade Tiger for the rest of your life. Please fade Tiger.
Well, what's pretty bad, Brady, when he's putting it in a drink on the simulator even. Like, I was like, come on, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dude, like.
Yeah, I mean, there's another sign. Kevin Kisner's on your team.
He was sculling shots. Like, I'm like, I know that. I told Gabe, the guy's interviewing guys now on the 16th. He can't play golf.
Max Homa's not serious enough either for this. Like, I gotta stay away. Like he's hitting bad shots. He's like, oh, come on, you got to pick me up, Tiger. It's like
that other team was loaded too. The LA team is loaded. Tagala, Makorakawa. Yeah, no, they're good. I didn't realize it started at 7 Eastern, and I missed it, but I would have bet against Tiger.
Hey, say Heath Tagala's a really good indoor player. He killed it last night.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. All right, we're going to get to Paul Bovey in a minute. Bovey's going to get ready in the green room here. I was going to say, though, they got it they averaged over 1 million viewers last night for the TGL, which, to put in context, that's like double what the NHL gets on ESPN. So week 2, they're already beating the NHL. So just like that. And don't forget, it's super cheap to produce this stuff. They're just in a warehouse in Florida. Like, so you know what I mean? Like, so the production costs are low, the ratings are doing well, and in fact, I think there's potential for this league, Brady, and I'm going to say, like, there's the potential. I wanted to ask, so what were the ratings last week for the Sony Open? Like, I'm sure not much better than 1 million. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people that don't watch the full, like, for me personally, I'm actually watching this stuff because it's brisk, it's fast, so I like golf, but I don't like all the longness of golf and everything, right? No, I get this isn't fully golf, but you see with the video game world, this stuff's big, bro. People, like, watch people play NFL Madden, right? Like, so modern kids don't mind the simulator. It's not, like, foreign to them. Right, you know what I mean? They see it.
Well, they're still hitting golf shots, you know, and we still see them chip and putt on the green. It's as close as I think you can get.
I heard Justin Rose, after he smoked the ball last night, his first drive, he said, man, this feels real. That's what he said to his teammates. He looked back, he goes, man, that felt so real. The technology's
unbelievable. No, I think it's great. I unfortunately missed, because they started at 6 p.m. Pacific the first week, and they started at 4 p.m. Pacific yesterday, and I missed it until the very last few minutes because I turned it on at 6. So I know going in to turn it on at 4 p.m. Pacific next week and catch Rory, because I've really enjoyed watching. I think the crowd is, they're totally into it. Joe Ranieri was there. He said he had a blast. Keith Stewart was there. He had a great time. I'm not sure if they went yesterday, but I'm with you, Gabe. I think it looks fun, and I wish for the best for this league and this project, because not only is it good to watch and bet on, I think it's great in the end for the game of golf.
If I win the lottery, I'll create a team with Corey Carter's Team Canada. I'll put a team together. I'll get him into
There you go.
I like that.
That's the thing.
Don't forget Nick Taylor.
Nick Taylor.
There's actually ownership.
Chip.
Like, you got to buy the teams. You got to enter the teams in the league and stuff like that. As we saw, Serena Williams is one of the owners. Kevin Durant actually owns the LA team as well. I saw there's a lot of basketball. Steph Curry and Andre Iguodala are like the chief owners of the Bay team.
Like, they love golf, those guys. There's some major players behind this stuff. The advertisers, the owners. It's going to be hard to make this thing go away.
It's cheap to produce. They've already got, they took time to build this little venue, but it's done. It's done. So,
and that venue's incredible. I mean, the technology is unbelievable.
It's got to turn the cameras. All right, so the American Express, what do you got here, Brady? Who are you looking at?
Well, Cam knows this is probably the most unpredictable tournament on the entire schedule. We go from a couple of very predictable events in Hawaii to a total crapshoot. 4 out of the last 6 winners have all been triple-digit odds. I mean, last year was a 500-1 shot, an amateur that won a PGA Tour event for the first time in 33 years. So half the guys that have won this tournament in the last 15 years, you've never even heard of. So that's what most of my card looks like. I went with Kurt Kitayama, the UNLV Rebel, at 30-1. Tom Kim, you know him. For some reason, he was really popular last week, and now nobody likes him this week. So I said, okay, give me some Tom Kim at 30-1. Mac Meisner at 80-1. Unfortunately, I liked him last week.
See, I've never heard of him.
Now I went.
He's good.
Right. But you know what? All of a sudden, he's become dangerously popular. Everybody I've seen this week loves Mac Meisner, and that's a big red flag. Jonathan Vegas got his first PGA Tour win here in 2011. I took him at 90-1. And then a couple of real long bombs, triple digits, Henrik Norlander at 150-1 and Matty Schmid at 190-1. We got to have a little luck here. Let's see if we can land on a winner.
Henrik Norlander, isn't that the goalie for the Abbotsford Canucks, the AHL team?
He is.
Sounds like a hockey
player. This is a pro-am. This is a pro-am. I bet on an amateur.
Norlander, Gabe, I'll tell you.
Hey, what happened to Clanton last week? Me and Cam were talking about Clanton. The McCoys got the Clantons. The Hatfields, the McCoys, the Clantons.
And that's how I feel about a couple.
He got the popular bug.
You know what? Ms. Meisner and Fishburne, and I like Fishburne, Brady. We're gonna die with those picks. I told Gabe, I go, nobody liked Yager, and my guy was leading the tournament till I told my girlfriend.
That was a great pick.
Gabe, he put one in the neighbor's pool. Like, it was so out of bounds. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And then he
that was a great pick, Cam.
Oh, Brady, I was raging. My girlfriend's like,
why does this happen every Sunday? I go, I don't know, honey. One guy wins the golf tournament. I have this guy at 80-1. What do you want from me? I can't hedge. There's three guys on the leaderboard.
You need thick skin to be a golf bettor. You don't have it, Cam. That's the problem. You're not like your temperament.
He was
not
under the radar.
for, like, to be a golf bettor.
He was.
You love the sport, but
nobody had Stefan Jager last week. That was a great pick. and like I say, this week everybody's on Mac Meisner. Look out! You may be tread. And here's another thing: public service announcement. You know, I dumbed down the risk amount a lot this week, guys. This tournament is so unpredictable. I did not lay out a bunch of cash here expecting to make a bunch this week. Have a little fun with it. See if I can hit a few winners. But no, this is one. We'll take somewhat of a pass here and get ready for Torrey Pines next week.
Yeah,
and when I say that, Cam,
80-1. It was 80-1, Gabe. If it was 20 or whatever, but I was
I'm not talking about your picks. I'm talking about the temperament. Like, that I find it hard with golf because you could do so well and you don't win, you don't control it. You're watching your guy and you're doing great, and some other jackass on the other hole just hit an eagle, and you're like, he skies up right the board. Yeah. It's a frustrating and tough emotional sport to bet on. But kind of like I would compare it to like NASCAR a little bit, Brady. Where you watch NASCAR, you put all this work in, bro. It's like you spin out, you get taken out in a crash. It's like, son of a bitch, it was so close. Or you finish second.
Well, it's drivers,
you know what I mean?
Drivers that are good for certain, tracks, just like golfers that are good for certain courses. Very similar to NASCAR.
But it's almost like a deal, though, with golf. Like, you need to accept, like, all right, it's good if I win a tournament once a month and I'm going to make money.
Exactly.
Right? It's almost like being a baseball player. You have to accept failure as a golf bettor. That's my point about it being a tough sport.
I'm getting better at it, Gabe. Lots of failure.
It's just like being a golfer itself. You have to accept failure.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. The Wicked Wednesday continues. Sirius XM Channel 159, SportsGrid Radio and Television Network. We got good news, bad news with some of our picks. Quick check with the late night basketball right now. We are on the Miami Heat plus the points. It's 55-47 for the Heat. So we got the Heat plus 4.5. They're up by 8 on the Lakers with 4 minutes left in the second quarter. They got Bam Adebayo back tonight. but I got cute. I got cocky. I took the Brooklyn Nets +5 in the first quarter. They're losing 18-12 right now. All right, so there's 4 minutes left. You could argue, all right, I'm a bucket away, but I really would have been happier if they weren't fighting an uphill battle here already. So I'm just going to have to hope for the best there. And it's not looking good for the Oklahoma Sooners. The Texas Longhorns have beaten them 7 straight times. They're rolling them right now. It's 43-27 late in the first half. In-game total 151.5. And Purdue have come back like I thought they would. Purdue have come back on Washington. It's 33-32 right now. Purdue are laying 4.5 in this game. They were 7.5-point favorites. Second half is just getting started. Don't be surprised if Purdue start to pull away. Washington, they're not that good. All right, you know who is good? Paul Bovey steps up and in. Paul, thanks for your patience. We just had to get some golf with Brady Cannon. How you doing, Paul? How's the East Coast treating you?
It's good. And you know what tomorrow night is? Cam will know. Tomorrow is oyster night. Okay, 100 oysters for 100 Canadian dollars. I'm trying to figure out how to get a second 100. They limited me to 100. I'm going to pay some guy off the street.
That's amazing.
Well, is there a really good oyster spot in Toronto you like? Is there a good spot?
Oh, yeah. Cam knows the place.
Yeah, it's good. That's where we had. That's a good deal, man. 100 for 100. That's a steal, actually. Some of them.
But Cam doesn't eat in the same type of restaurants you do.
No, I don't.
Listen, Cam. I'm officially extending an invitation to you because I'd love to see.
When does it start? Is it happy hour? Or is it it's Pearl Diver at 5 o'clock? I got to do a show with Gabe at night, so it's hard to get back. That's the problem. But I'd like to come. $100.
My reservation's for 6:30.
Let me ask you, Paul.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. What about the oysters at Palace Station in Vegas? That thing. There's always a lineup there at that place. I never understood it.
That's dangerous.
First of all, I want cold water oysters. They're safer. They're better. So I always prefer my oysters coming from Canada. Canada.
Good call, Paul.
Yeah,
I don't eat oysters, so I don't. I'm not. You know.
Oh, me and Paul. I'm a big fan, Gabe. You put a little vodka on them with some hot. I doctor them up real good. You should see me at the oyster bar. I'm a machine.
Too slimy.
I like slimy. I'm a slimy guy.
Too slimy. All right, so Paul Bovey in the house with us. Paul, NFL playoffs. How do you feel about this card? Are you locked and loaded? Are you going big this weekend, or what? Do you like it? Not like it? What do you think?
I like it. I like it because this is a prop lover's haven. I will say that. Last week I was on Joe Mixon. It didn't look good in the first half. I played it as much as I possibly could, got off as much as I could, and lo and behold, in the second half, as opposed to the first half where they only ran the ball 5 times, they just kept feeding the beast, and he went easily over, actually eclipsed the century mark. So there's a lot of spots on the board this week where I think there's opportunity, and I do like a few sides as well.
So the Texans have never gotten past this round before. They've won 5 times in the wild card round, and it seems like they always end up having to play Kansas City. So it sucks for them, and it's good for Kansas City, but they have played a lot of close games. So, they played earlier this year. It was 27-19. They went to overtime in a 30-24 game before. We've had, the Texans last beat them, though, in 2019 only, Paul, but it is a pretty big point spread. And what do you think about the fact that the Chiefs really haven't played a real game for more than 3 weeks right now?
I'm not worried about the rust. What I am worried about with the Texans is protection of the quarterback, as well as the fact that they lost Petrie at safety. They also lost Jimmy Ward. So it has weakened their run defense. Both teams have issues protecting the quarterback, hence the lower total here. But I do like a couple props in here, and that's the direction I'm going to go. Chiefs should win the football game. Just a question of by how many.
And then you got the Saturday nighter. That's the Propapalooza here because weather will not be a factor, obviously, inside this dome. And I'll tell you what, man, Brown really stepped up last week for Washington. I want to take a look at some of his numbers for this football game. More with Paul on the other side. Let's roll.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's do this thing. Countdown to kickoff is on. And, a game that we're all looking forward to, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. It's too bad that they have to play each other this early in the playoffs, but the regular season matters, and, your record matters. So Kansas City earned the right to host the Houston Texans. Meanwhile, we've got a battle in Buffalo. I know Paul Bovey was thinking about going to the football game, but I'm not going to blame you, Paul. I would say, it's going to be cold, but it is going to be. They're expecting 4 to 8 inches of snow in Buffalo. That stadium's already a pain in the ass to get in and out of to begin with, like when the weather's not bad. So it would be quite the adventure just getting in and out of that stadium. It's not as simple as some cities. Just, Seattle is easy. The stadium's downtown. It's just like you walk in, you walk out. Half the you don't even know you walk 2 blocks, you wouldn't know there was a game. Right, like Buffalo, the stadium's in the middle of nowhere. There's one road there. It's annoying. They should have just built a new stadium on Niagara Falls, but I digress. But I'm looking at your plays here for this football game, and talk to me here. You've got the over in the football game, but I see you got a Buffalo Bill under 27.5 points. Baltimore Raven teaser. You got them bet up here to plus 7.5. So talk to me about this football game, Paul. What do you like here?
All right. Look, Gabe, you watched that first game, and I understand there were 3 guys out, actually 2, for Buffalo that game. Bernard was out, and Taron Johnson was out. Rapp went out in the second quarter. By that time, they were
I don't
down.
know. Was Milano playing then?
I think
was Milano still out?
Milano was out, I think.
Okay, Milano was out. Okay, but Rapp went out, and he went out when they were down 21-3, went out with a concussion en route to 28-3, and it could have been that, but Lamar Jackson fumbled, gave the ball away. They couldn't stop the run, and the issue for Buffalo is they have not shown the ability to stop the run the entire year. You could point to that San Francisco game in the snow, and the 49ers came out and were running the football quite well, and I think they were just a victim of the elements. But I haven't seen the Bills' ability to stop the run, and that puts them in a very bad position here. I didn't see any ability to stop Justin Hill out of the backfield. stop the receivers, although Justice Hill was the leading receiver that game, 6 for 78 yards. And Josh Allen was under siege the entire game. The only touchdown they had was on this broken play where he threw it by the sideline. I'm sure you remember, to Shakir, caught it, 3-yard line, went in for a score. I think it was the next play. But there was such a divide between the two teams, and I'm not sure the injuries can make up for that. I just don't see Buffalo containing Baltimore here, holding them to under 27.5 points. And that under 27.5 is correlated to the over, because let's face it, if Buffalo goes over and gets to 28, more than likely the game gets over the 51, because it's probably not going to be 28-23. It's probably going to be more like 28-24, 28-27. So I like the over here, which I think is being held down a little bit because of the weather. Because under normal circumstances, this game should be 53.
And you see this all the time, guys. I bring it up. We can talk about the media as a whole, but they like to dramatize things, right? And there's always, even in a regular season, Paul, you see it. I call it weather fear mongering. Oh, the weather's going to be really bad in this game. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. And whenever it is actually terrible, nobody actually predicts it. It just sort of happens out of the blue. But you're seeing it right now, Paul, right? Oh, the weather's going to be brutal on Sunday in Buffalo. And actually, if you actually look at it, it's supposed to snow 4 to 8 inches over the weekend. And it's going to be like 21 degrees or so, but only 6-mile-an-hour winds, Paul. So, You know what I mean? Like, weather really won't affect this football game, even though everybody's going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's just normal. It's Buffalo. You mentioned 4 to 8 inches of snow. Hey, by the way, that doesn't scare me. I was here in Buffalo for the blizzard of 77, so anybody that was there for that and knows about it, 4 to 8 inches is like a walk.
You survived the blizzard of 77. You got the T-shirt still.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's like a walk at the beach. So, the weather, I think, here is going to be overblown. The offenses should be clicking. I like the fact that Buffalo's home because I think they'll score at home. I'm not worried about Baltimore scoring. I'm not.
Just to play devil's advocate, Paul, Taron Johnson was also out. So they have Bernard Johnson. Like, those are the 3 or 4 of their best defensive players in that game. That's a lot of good guys. Like, that's.
I mentioned Johnson. I did mention Johnson. I understand.
I don't think it was the injuries, though, in that game. I just think they got their ass handed to them.
They did.
And it should be noted that was, Paul, it was the back-to-back of 2 road games for them. And the week before, they were incredibly terrible as well against the Houston Texans. They were down. You remember that one? They were down all game, and the Bills became the first team in NFL history to throw the ball from their own 1-yard line 3 times, and when they weren't losing in the final minute of a game.
Yeah, Josh Allen was 9 for 30. By the way, Houston had a great pass defense, and I mentioned Petrie and Jimmy Ward going down, but they did work against the Bills. They did work against the Lions.
Yeah, but I'm saying that was like the low point of the Bills season. Yeah. Like, people were mad after that game. Like, the Bills were mad. The players were mad at McDermott. McDermott, apologized to the team later in the week. There was, a lot. It was sort of like that was sort of the gut check, rock bottom. And then they got their ass handed them by Baltimore, which was just an absolute train wreck. But with everything you said, Paul, and I don't disagree. Listen, Derrick Henry's always caused the Bills problems. Sean McDermott's defense has never been great against the run. These powerful teams that just run the ball down their throat. And the Titans always had success against the Bills doing it. Lamar Jackson had success in the last game. But to play devil's advocate, Paul, what about the fact that these two teams did play in the playoffs a couple of years ago? Pretty much the same teams. And Baltimore, stumbled. Right? All right, Baltimore looked good last week against Pittsburgh. Now they're going on the road. Can this offense do it again? Lamar's been great, but I think the Bills can slow him down, Paul, enough. A stop here and a stop there.
Yeah, maybe it's just that where I'm troubled is that the 35-10 score wasn't even indicative of the domination. It actually could have been worse. And I didn't like that Josh was under pressure. He was running around. to win this game on Sunday, he's going to have to play hero ball a lot more than Lamar Jackson because I'm sorry, but I think Baltimore has better personnel, and that's just my feeling.
All right, we were going to do another segment with Paul, but we've decided to move on after his Bills analysis. We've heard enough. Well, we've heard enough.
I'm not saying. Look, I would like to see. All right, look, I root for the Buffalo Bills. I root for the Buffalo Braves because I spent time in Buffalo. So what can I say? I mean, if it's not.
No, you're calling it like you see it. You're calling it like you see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got the over in the game and the Bills team total to the under.
I also have the I think one of the best bets, and I do have it. It's just not on the screen. I have the Baltimore team total over because I don't see them not scoring 27 points. I don't see that happening.
So you think Baltimore wins by margin? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, I could say Buffalo's going to have to outscore them. They're going to have to find a way to get to 30 points to win this game, to have any shot to win the game.
I posted it earlier on X, Paul. They need to ambush the Ravens early. Just point blank. Like, it needs to be one of those, like, Josh is on fire early. They get a quick 14-0 lead. The crowd really starts getting crazy. You try to rattle Baltimore. But if Baltimore just sort of, get that train going, man, it starts to go downhill on you. And you got Derrick Henry running downhill at you. You got a problem.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The Wicked Wednesday continues. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Paul Povey in the house with us. All right, so let's keep it moving along. Paul, we talked about the Buffalo Bills, and I've had enough of the Buffalo Bills badgering right now. So we'll move on. I respect your opinion, but no, listen, it's an extremely tough matchup. I'm not going to hang my hat on the regular season matchup as much as you are, but your points are all valid, right? I mean, the Bills do have problems running the ball. That's why they match up well with Kansas City. Right, and that's why they beat the Detroit Lions earlier in the year, right? Like, and although the Lions have a better ground game now, it seems, than they did, but the Bills' kryptonite really is just, run the ball down their throat, run them over, because they are sort of a built-on speed type of defense. Okay, before the Bills game, you got the Rams and the Eagles. We were just talking about it with Brady Cannon. Can the Rams dig down deep, like emotionally, after that big win? And then you got to go on the road again. You got to practice under weird circumstances in L.A. this week. You got to go on the road again to Philadelphia. But with all that being stated, man, look at all of Green Bay's trouble that they had last week. They didn't have their vertical deep down the field threat in Christian Watson. They lose Romeo Doubs in the game. They lose Jaden Reed in the football game. Hell, Jacobs got hurt in the game. They lost their center in the football game. And with all that being stated, they were one touchdown away from covering the point spread. Philadelphia's offense really didn't do that much, Paul, last week. But, Hurts hadn't played in a little while, so what are you expecting in this football game?
Oh, you neglected to mention they caught a big break on that kickoff because that.
Oh, the kickoff. Oh, yeah, and a 38-yard missed field goal. They gifted them 10 points. Exactly.
Yeah.
I could go on.
Yeah. Okay. So I just, felt I'd help you out there. But anyway. Okay. All right. Anyway,
fair point.
I'm sorry to say, I looked down the schedule of who the Rams played this year, and I could point to 3 good games, really good games. The opener against the Lions, okay, which they lost in overtime, and the 2 Minnesota games. And that middle Minnesota game, or should I say the first one, you look at, what the Vikings had to face. They're coming off a 31-29 heartbreak loss to Detroit on the road, and they get screwed on a safety in the end zone, lose the left tackle, last play of the first half. And other than that, and this past week, which I think was a lot of Sam Darnold's inability to escape the rush, to step up in the pocket, I don't see much in the way of what they've accomplished this year. Cooper Kupp, excellent receiver, but I think he's lost a step. So I think it's a lot of Nakua here. And I just don't think they have what it takes to beat the Eagles. Their lone chance. I mean, look, the lone bright spot for the Rams is that the Eagles lost Nakobe Dean, who has over 100 tackles. He's instrumental in their defense. But I just think the Rams are not much. I just too much recency here to draw on a team that, remember, had to struggle all out to beat Arizona, and they were fortunate with that, whatever you want to call it, in the end zone that fell their way. So I'm not a Ram fan. I'm not.
Paul, not a Ram fan. Not feeling it. Yeah. Saturday night, the Commanders, you talked about props. So this game is the indoors one. You got a total of 55.5, which has to be one of the highest playoff totals ever, if not the highest, like right up there. So it's almost unheard of. What are your thoughts on the Commanders and Lions? Because the Commanders, somebody had a good point. I don't know who said it on the show the other night, but they said, the Commanders, or I think it was Rick Saratella actually, he said, the Commanders are too young or too whatever to know. Like, I don't think they feel pressure, actually. Like, Jaden Daniels might be a rookie, but he's playing with house money. Like, the Commanders are kind of a loose football team, Paul. They really have nothing to lose going into Detroit. The Lions are the ones under all the pressure Saturday night.
Absolutely. Look, I have a small play on the Washington team total over 23.5. That total, to me, was a little pricey at 55.5. So I wasn't interested in the total, but I think Washington could get to 24 points. But what I do like is Jaden Daniels to go over his rushing prop, which is 54.5, because you look at Detroit, they gave up 445 yards on the ground to quarterbacks. That was 4th most in the league. But I looked at running quarterbacks. I think Josh Allen went 11 to 61. Richardson went for 60. And there were a couple other quarterbacks that were successful in running the ball, not that many carries. And I just think Daniels generally runs the ball at least 7 times a game. But this is probably going to be 9 to 10. 9 to 10, I think, gets you over this number. It's high for a reason. And it will scare a lot of people off. He went under his prop this past week. It's not for lack of effort. He did try to run. He just wasn't successful doing it. but Detroit does play some man-to-man. They'll have their back towards the quarterback at times, and I just think Daniels goes over his prop here. So that's what I'm going to look for in that game.
All right, we got about a minute here, Paul. The Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. What are your thoughts on the Texans and Chiefs matchup?
So I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud over completions. He's under a lot of pressure, throws a lot of short passes, and the guy he's going to throw to, this is a bargain. Schultz was lined. I got some at MGM, 34.5, 36.5, 37.5. He had 45 yards when they played a few weeks ago. But if you look at the Chiefs, they gave up number one receiver against them was Kittle. Freiermuth was the number one receiver for Pittsburgh. They have given up a lot of yards to the tight ends. Look what Bowers got. 15 receptions in 19 targets for 198 yards. So I think Schultz is a bargain here. And look, they lost a few receivers along the way, so he's going to have to find his tight end.
Paul Bovey. Great stuff, Paul. Enjoy the games this weekend. And we'll catch up with you next week. When are you going to start? Are you going to wait till after the Super Bowl? When are you going to start jumping into the NBA?
Oh, no, I'll next week or two. I'll do it. I'm in.
All right. Your boy, Karl Anthony Towns, is rocking Eagles gear tonight. You can't do that if you're a New York Knicks.
That's right.
He actually changed at the half. Somebody complained.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Let's do this thing. This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Thanks to Paul Bovey. I don't know if we had to run Paul Bovey because Ian Cameron, a.k.a. Babano, is AWOL right now. And we should have a poll question up. What is Babano doing right now? And I hate to say this, but I'm going to say like he's stalking. Like I said, I've always imagined a dark side to Ian Cameron. He's got like strange stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like
Every time you say it, I think of the episode him lurking. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like I can picture
doing?
like Babano in an episode of Las Vegas CSI and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like they go in his, like he's all like, "Hey guys, I want to sit down," and they're sitting at the kitchen table. They just they hear like some noise in the basement or something, and be like, you know, nothing's down there. You know, nothing's there.
I think he's having crazy. I think he's having a cold beer, just doing his math after the Edmonton Wild game. That's my prediction.
No, with all kidding aside, I think he was taking a nap. I think Babano might have dozed off maybe after a long day. What's going on, Ian?
No dozing here. Of course not. Never.
Never.
Like he'll never tell us though, kid. That's the only thing he'll never say. Wow.
Yeah, I like a good afternoon nap. I'm not going to lie, Morency. I'm getting old. Naps are great.
Babano's mysteries. Well, I figured there's no late night hockey tonight, unless you're betting on the AHL. Do you bet on the AHL at all?
A little bit closer when it's in the Calder Cup playoffs. I follow it more, so I'll throw a couple bets if I think there's a line that's a little out of whack. But usually I just do it at that time of year because it's just so busy. There's so much going on. I just don't follow it closely enough. It's that simple.
It's good for the late night hours. Like I said, right now there's 4 AHL games going on, and a couple of them are only in the second period too. So people wanted to jump in on that. NBA basketball. We got lucky in the first quarter. So we rolled the dice. We took the Brooklyn Nets +5 in the first quarter against the Clippers. It was 21-21 after the first quarter, but I also took +9 in the first half, and they're getting murdered now. So it's just one of those deals where the Clippers are starting to pull away. They're up by 15 with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. So I might just get the split there. The Miami Heat are up by 4 on the Lakers. Actually a pretty good game, this Heat-Laker game. We did jump in. We got the Heat +4.5. We did jump in on the in-game total at the half, 226.5. And a quick check. I told you guys I thought Purdue would come back and start to pull away. They're up 62-51 right now, Purdue. 3 minutes left in the basketball game, and I got to cry home at over 127.5 in this game right now. Any late night action for you, Ian Cameron Babano?
Well, I've got Brooklyn and Clippers over. That's not in good shape. I've got a piece of the Lakers, so I'm hoping they do come back on the money line. And Minnesota is looking like they're going to let me down here tonight in the NBA. Orlando let me. It's not been a good NBA night for me, honestly. But that's the way it goes. College basketball was better. But in the late night hours here, I am interested in UNLV. You know, that game just tipped off.
Yeah, they're getting 6.5 now in game.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a tricky spot for Utah State. They're certainly playing well. They're the better team. UNLV's pulled a lot of home upsets in these kind of spots, though, when they're doubted. So I expected a good effort from UNLV. We'll see how they fare tonight at home, taking on one of the better teams in the Mountain West.
I think they're live as well, getting 6.5 right now. And as you stated, the Warriors are up 87-75 on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm watching the Heat-Laker game right now, and LeBron started to heat up a little bit. And I don't know what he did with some kid on the sideline here, but this little girl seems to be very happy. I think LeBron James gave her something or high five. Speaking of which, too, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever, some cute little kid was on the court, and he had like a little tiny Wembanyama jersey. And Wembanyama took off his jersey and gave it to him. I think it was at MSG in New York. And, well, it's on sports auction sites now. Like these scumbag parents. So what'd you do? You send your kid out? Now you take that jersey from your kid. Like, and this is why athletes are screwed, too, because if they blow kids off, they look bad on video and stuff.
Great call.
Right? Somebody on video, oh, look at Wembanyama's a jerk. He's already an ass. And look at this. He blew up this kid. Yeah, whatever, dude. The kid's a pawn. Right? The kid is a freaking pawn.
Bad pub. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But Wembanyama actually is nice. But it ruins people. Patrick Roy is a slick dude on and off the ice. In the old days in Montreal, he used to sign everything for people. But for adults, people used to give him like pristine cards, Cam. And he'd go, yeah, no problem. He'd sign it and he'd bend the corner and tear the corner off. And he'd smile and he'd go, here you go.
Hey,
so you can't resell it if you know what I mean? Can't resell it. And he'd also insist on your name because it's worth less if there's a name.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. 76-72 right now. For the Miami Heat, in-game total 224.5. Purdue are up 62-54. Total's 127.5. Exactly what I got it at. I don't think it's going to get there. It feels like that's a little bit high. I agreed with Babano, and in fact, I didn't freaking click it at 6.5, and it just moved. It's 4.5 right now. Utah State up 15-13 on UNLV running Rebels, so they're getting 4.5. But I do think that was the original number anyway, so we'll take UNLV here plus the 4.5. Texas are smashing Oklahoma 55-36 with 13 minutes left. All right, let's get to Cam's American Express golf picks. Rabano's golf guy has a couple of picks as well. As Brady Cannon said earlier, that it's the most unpredictable tournament of the year due to the fact that they're playing on multiple courses. So, Cam, who do you got winning this tournament?
Well, Gabe, it's one of those tournaments, you're right. Like, you look at guys who have done well in the past, and some chalk guys win. But last year, Nick Dunlop won at 500-1, the amateur, and he's the defending champion, and it was pretty crazy. A couple people actually cashed the ticket. But we're going to start with Wyndham Clark. I think his odds are pretty high and very, very good for a guy that's won a major before, 33-1. Wyndham Clark, 33-1. Max Gracerman. Sometimes he gets a little bit sour, but he has a perfect game for this type of course. 38-1. He'll hit it straight. These courses aren't too long, Gabe, all around 7,000 yards. So you want guys who are great iron players and that can putt. Davis Thompson, 40-1. I'm taking a shot, Gabe. He put on 10 pounds. Saw a nice interview with our boy, Carrots and Celery. Now he's hit the gym. Will Zalatoris, not too bad in his first tournament at 55-1. I'm going to take a shot. Eric Cole, he's an addiction, like a bad drug, finished 5th last week, almost won for me. I almost had 2 winners as my boy Jagerbomb hit one in the neighbor's pool. Cole, 65-1, and Fishburne, Patrick Fishburne at 70-1, top 10. Sunjay Im is basically top 10 in this tournament every year. He's plus 130 for a top 10. And Mr. Burns, Sam Burns, plus 180 for a top 10. Thank you very much, fellas. Those are the outrights right there. So we like that. Top 20, Nico Echeverria. Want to know what happened last week? He had a big bomb, got into a playoff, Canadian Nick Taylor, after Taylor chipped in for Eagle, and Taylor beat him in a playoff. This guy's hotter than hell, plus 200. And Sepp Straka, the Georgia Bulldog, courtesy of Austria, plus 210. Gabe Meisner, Brady talked about him being a popular pick, but I'm not even screwing around. Top 40 plus 110. And Zuber last week, one of these upstarts from the lower circuit, getting up to the PGA Tour and finishing top 10 last week. He's plus 180 for a top 40. First round leader, 3 courses. Carver gave you 9, I'll give you 6. 2 guys at La Quinta. I got Zalatoris at 25-1, Cole at 28. At the Nicholas course, we're going with Big Bo Hostler, the Texas Longhorn, at 25-1, and Gabe, our friend, Vancouver Canucks, Abbotsford goalie and golfer, Henrik Norlander, 33-1. Brady likes him too. And then at the Stadium course, Bud Colley, 30-1, and Brendan Todd. Wow, another Georgia Bulldog here, 60-1. Enjoy the golf, everybody.
Yeah, it's too confusing with all these different courses, man.
I'm sprinkling around. Yeah, no, you're right, Gabe. It's like these guys are doing like 4 or 5 picks per course. That's 15 guys for first round leader. I'm only doing 6. I got 2, 2, and 2. Like, there's only so much money to go around. We got football games to bet this weekend too. So that's the way it is.
So when you're betting this, yeah, you better be careful and be very careful and know what you're clicking with this golf tournament. You know, it's too bad, actually. I heard you were talking about Sung Jae, and Sung Jae Im's had a great run here before, but the odds makers are on top of it at 13-1 to win. Justin Thomas is 13. Cantlay is 17. Sam Burns is 17. Fina, and then there's a big drop-off, so you are getting value with pretty much everybody in this tournament. You know, the name that really jumps off the screen at me is actually Sung Jae Im. As you stated, top 10, including ties, is plus 130. Not bad odds. Top 5 is plus 250. To win is plus 1,300. But Bano, what do you got? Who are you taking here? What's your golf guy got?
Well, first of all, Cam mentioned Fishburne. Shout out to him last week because my golf guy had Fishburne, and he was right there in the hunt in the final round, and then he kind of fell off the pace there. But he gave it a really good go last week. For the American
that doesn't
golf
count
guy,
then.
No, mine's the leader, Babano, on 16.
You fell
Trust me,
off, you fell
Steven
off.
Yeager. All my guys were there. It's golf. Thanks.
Yep. No doubt. That's golf. That's what happens. Cam, you
Yes.
mentioned Davis Thompson. My golf guy's on him, 40-1. Poston, wait a minute, Mr. Poston, 65. Sepp Straka, 65. Daniel Berger, 90. Mac Meisner, another. My golf guy likes Mac Meisner, too. Michael Torbjornsson, 120-1. Michael Kim in the 100-1 range. And Matty Schmid at 200-1. A little bit of a long shot
Brady
there
had
for
him.
that. Yeah, Matty Schmidt, very good. Okay, excellent. And, you know, he's actually got some first-round leaders. He's on 2 that you mentioned, Cam, Eric Cole and Henrik Norlander, first-round leaders on their respective courses. He also likes Lucas Glover, 25-1 first-round leader, Sepp Straka, 20-1 first-round leader, and your old pal, Cam, Hoagie Sandwiches, Tom Hoagie, first-round leader.
Tom Hoagie, just a quick note, Gabe. Tom Hoagie has been the first-round leader the first 2 weeks of the season, so watch out for Hoagie Sandwich. He's like a horse. He gets out early and fades as the tournament progresses. That's Hoagie's game.
Yep.
All right, so there's the American Express picks for the golf. And as we mentioned, you got the TGL every Tuesday night as well. The Atlanta Drive, basically the sort of SEC team or the Southern team. They actually have a pretty good lineup. Look forward to seeing them and how this TGL season plays out already going into to week 3. Whatever, there's only like 6 weeks, and then they're into the semifinals and the finals. The Clippers are smoking the Nets. It's 58-35 right now. 58-35. It's a miracle that they were tied. Dude, these guys, they were tied at 21 after the first quarter. The Clippers have outscored the Nets 37-14 in the second quarter of play. The Clippers are a sneaky good basketball team, but obviously Kawhi's health is always the factor in the big picture there. The Lakers have gone on a little bit of a run, but the Miami Heat have punched back. It's 83-75 right now with under 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter of play. And as I stated earlier, it is a pretty entertaining basketball game. And Utah State up 18-16 on UNLV. Texas are smoking Oklahoma 55-40. And I wanted to get the Purdue final score that just went final right now. 69-55 69-58 final score. 69-58 final score. Of course, I had over 127.5, Ken, to get to 127.
27. That's unreal. It's amazing how these things happen. Are you kidding me? Like, that's the thing. Like, all the numbers. 127. Half. We're talking half point here. One shot.
It's a cold world.
It's very cold, Gabe. Very frigid. Very frigid.
It's a cold world. All right. Well, hopefully we catch a break. Hopefully it evens out as the night goes on. All right. So, Babano, Paul Bovey was all in on the Baltimore Ravens. And Paul, I thought, guys, and obviously Paul's a great handicapper, but I thought Paul was putting like a lot of stock in a regular season matchup from earlier in the year. And we were running out of time with him, but I slickly noticed how he made excuses when he was saying he doesn't think much of the Rams, and when the Rams beat the Vikings or whatever, or earlier in the year, that the Vikings were coming off a tough loss. So he made an excuse for them, but he doesn't make an excuse for the Bills coming off a tough loss against Houston. But they played in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and it was 17-3 Buffalo. Like, Buffalo have had success against Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh. They beat him 23-20 2 times ago. They did lose 35-10 earlier this year, but the Baltimore Ravens movement here, everybody like just basically writing off the Buffalo Bills is really surprising to me.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl, but it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Let's roll. The Wicked Wednesday continues. This is SportsRage. Countdown to kickoff is on. A massive weekend of NFL football games that just sort of, you get the appetizer with the Chiefs and the Texans. I think everybody that's not a Kansas City Chief fan is just hoping that the Texans can make a game of it and then potentially pull off a massive upset. You know that Baltimore and Buffalo are. Either way, they would end up getting a home game, right? So they need the Kansas City Chiefs get knocked out, it opens up the door big time for the Buffalo Bills and or the Baltimore Ravens. But the Ravens are getting, it seems to be split. Like I said, I'm very surprised about the number here with Baltimore being a point favorite. As we were saying earlier, and we were talking about it with Brady Cannon earlier, the odds makers used to put 3 points into a home field advantage in the NFL. Generally 3. You can argue 3.5 for some, a little less for others, you know what I mean? But generally it was 3 points. In the modern era, home field doesn't mean as much anymore. And odds makers will tell you that they use 1.8, 1.6, 1.5, whatever, for a home field. But the Buffalo Bills actually do have a distinct home field advantage. Like the Bills are good on the road, but they're better at home. They're 9-0 at home this year. They haven't lost a game, right? They feed off of the Bills Mafia. They really do. Like Josh Allen said today, he goes, I want nothing more than for us to get into the fourth quarter and have Mr. Brightside playing, as the Bills have adopted Mr. Brightside as their song. And this, so in other words, you're telling me that Baltimore are 4 points better than the Buffalo Bills on a neutral field? I don't buy that, Babano. Like, the number is baffling to me, but the sports books are responding to the betting market, and the betting market has bet Baltimore so far early in the week on this football game.
Yeah, to me now the value's shifting to Buffalo, and this is a tough game. I thought coming into the playoffs, Baltimore was a team that could certainly make a run with the way they played down the stretch. But you have to remember, last week, their defense faced Russell Wilson, who struggled down the stretch. The offense for Pittsburgh struggled down the stretch. And their secondary still struggles in pass defense. You really can throw on the Baltimore Ravens. And I think Josh Allen, with the ability he has, and with the fact that finally this receiving core is healthy, Cooper, Coleman, they're all there. Shakir, everyone's healthy. The two tight ends are healthy now, Kincaid and Knox. The offensive line's playing very well. Dawkins and Brown, your tackles. Brown still takes a couple too many penalties for my liking, but he's still a good player. Nevertheless, I think you look at this Buffalo offense, they're really set up well, I think, in this game. The key is going to be their defense because, look, they had no answer for Lamar. They had no answer for Derrick Henry in the regular season meeting. But if you go back and look at that game, Buffalo was a injury-decimated mess on defense. There was no Taron Johnson. There was no Christian Benford. Matt Milano, who's been integral in helping that defense get better since he's been back and is a big part in their run defense and containing the run game of the opponent, he's back now as well. That's a huge, huge boost in addition to the Buffalo defense here. So I get it's like a phobia here with the mainstream media and the public that we love Baltimore, and why not? They've got the eye candy. They're doing all these great things on offense in the run game with both Lamar and Derrick Henry. But I think people have gotten just a little bit carried away from a value standpoint, Gabe, pushing Baltimore into the road favorite role. So, look, you're betting against a good team, a great team, either way. But right now at the current numbers, Gabe, I am interested from a value side that I think Buffalo is the value side right now.
Yeah, it's almost like Penn State and Notre Dame. You know what I mean? Like it's in the same, you got two equally matched teams. They're basically, you got Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson. You got the defenses are similar. It's basically a coin flip. Who's going to show up? Who's going to make the plays? But I think Buffalo, like I said, I got a lot of confidence in Josh Allen that he is on this mission right now. And I think Lamar is awesome. But I think Buffalo's defense can come up with just a few stops here and there enough. And you got to force the Ravens into, like, throwing the football for real. And you got to take Mark Andrews out of the equation.
Loud, Gabe, with the crowd being nuts, and they're going to be liquored up, alcoholed up for that game on a frigid Sunday night at Highmark Stadium. That crowd making noise and forcing false start penalties out of Baltimore and putting them in those long down and distance situations and put Lamar into a situation where he might have to throw the ball a bit more, which Baltimore can't be behind schedule, behind the chains in this game. Buffalo's crowd can make an impact on that.
And obviously, Bo Nix is not Lamar Jackson. But after a bomb, they held him like 130 yards in the game. They also is running, too. The Bills had a spy. Like, that's the thing. Lamar Jackson is better. But, like, you could look at Bo Nix. He's still an athlete, and the Bills contained him very well and destroyed them after the first play of the game. And that's a scripted play, as we talked about, Morency. So I think there's a lot of positives with the Bills playing defense right now. And Babano's point is valid. You get these guys into penalties, get that crowd rocking, and then make it, that's the thing. You got to keep them long, because if it's second and down, whatever, with Henry, that's a recipe for disaster. Make them third and long, get them out of the rhythm. I think the Bills can play. I'm very surprised that they're being disrespected like this.
It's up to the Bills' best player, right? The defense will make enough plays, but Josh Allen needs to win this game for them. Just point blank. This is a battle, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Which one of them can overcome the adversity? They're both going to face it, and they're both going to be under pressure at some point where we're going to need to score. And it's just who's going to be able to step up. I mean, it's as simple as that. They're both so evenly matched, even coaching-wise, right? I mean, and McDermott's going to have to figure something out. If they can light up Lamar early, it's easier said than done. The problem is in the playoffs, Lamar takes off now a lot, right? Lamar, has been, in the last couple of years, Lamar took it personal that people said, he can't throw the football. And I remember, before he got hurt, it was 2 years ago, he was hell-bent on it, and I was cashing in props. He was like, screw this, I'm throwing touchdown passes now. And you see, Lamar can throw the football. There's no disputing it. He can, but in the playoffs, he takes off more now. He doesn't play around, man. He's just sort of, he sees the hole. And they brought it up during the broadcast in the last week that Lamar Jackson drops back more than any quarterback in the league. If you look, he actually drops back 15 yards, man, behind the line of scrimmage. He snaps the ball and he keeps going back and back, and it gives him a running start to take off. The Bills have to nullify that.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl, but it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, don't look now, but the UNLV Running Rebels have taken a 5-point lead on Utah State. 30-25 is 4.5-point underdogs in Sin City. And the Oklahoma Sooners, I sort of wrote them off. I'm on Oklahoma. They're making a late comeback here. And there's a little bit more time than I thought, actually. There's still 8 minutes left in a basketball game, and Oklahoma are storming back. They've cut the lead to 5. They were down 43-27 at the half, and In fact, it was 47-24. That was the high point. So it was 47-24 at one point. They've outscored them 24-13 in the second half, and they've cut the lead to 5 points. And for anybody that follows the women's game, the Pittsburgh Panthers the other night and the women's team, largest comeback in NCAA women's history. They were down I think it was 41-7, 41-9 or something. They were literally losing. It's too bad I just closed the page earlier too. But they went on a 28-0 run, and they came back and they won. For those of you that bet on the women's game, keep your eye. The Pittsburgh Panthers are pretty good, actually, so keep your eye on them moving forward. The Lakers have come all the way back as well. We got a good game going on. I jumped in on the in-game over, and it was a high-scoring third quarter here, 36-32. They hung up a combined 68 points between the two of them. But excuse me, that was the Warriors and the war right now. The Warriors of Babana. You were talking about the T-Wolves earlier. I want to tell you this: the T-Wolves have come back right now. They're down by 2. They're the ones. They've just gone on a torrid pace. They scored 36 in the third and 22 in the fourth. They've cut the lead to 2 right now.
I know they're right back in it. The Lakers are coming back against Miami, so we're starting to. The problem is I got Minnesota -5.5, so they got a lot of work to do still. They not just win, but they got to come back and win by 6.
Now you're asking for a lot. See, I was trying to get you the money line.
See, it's like they're trying to make you feel good. Now you got to win by 6. That's unrealistic.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem.
How about Miami +4.5, and the Lakers are up by 4 right now. The Lakers are balling suddenly.
Go Heat.
Yeah, they are, and Oklahoma's closed the gap. I'm wondering if there's a little coaching edge there with I'll take Porter Moser any day over Rodney Terry. Maybe there's a little coaching adjustment edge going on there. But, yeah, Oklahoma's right back in it there.
All right, but we've only got a couple of minutes here. What are your other picks, Babano? The Rams in the NFL. The Rams-Eagles game, 6-44 is the spread right now. The Commanders are getting 9.5, 55.5, and the Texans are getting 8.5, and the total's down to 41.5 in this game now. It's pretty low, actually. That's too light, 41.5. It's just like last week with the Texans. Everybody, these Texan games are always so low scoring, and they're going to go over the number. But what are your quick picks here, Babano, in the NFL?
Yeah, I think Houston. I lean Houston at more than 7. I do. I don't think they're going to win the game, but I still have an issue laying a number like that with Kansas City in a playoff game. I think Houston keeps it with a 1-score game, and I'm with you. I think the total's a little low because Kansas City's offense got rolling, late in the season when they got healthy, and that's certainly a big deal. Washington, Detroit, I think the Lions do win. I admire what the hell Jaden Daniels has done for Washington. It was a great win last week against Tampa Bay. I honestly think it probably comes to an end. I don't know if I'm going to lay the 9.5, but I think I like Detroit's team total. I think they're going to score a lot on this Washington defense here. Washington's defense on the field last week. I lean to the full game over, but, man, it's high at 55.5. I think the Rams hang with Philadelphia. Philadelphia looked half dominant, half terrible in that game against Green Bay. At times they looked dominant. At times they looked bad. I am worried it's a short week, emotional win against Vikings for L.A. Not going to be easy, but I don't know. There's still a part of me that's not fully trustworthy of what I saw from the Eagles' offense. I lean to the under there in that game. I think that's the one that's low scoring there. Rams and the Eagles. Buffalo, Baltimore, like I said, I think there's value on Buffalo. I'm starting to see 1.5, 7.5. If you can get Buffalo in a teaser up to 7.5, I think it's a great teaser option this weekend.
I would expect you're going to see, too. If you like Buffalo, I wouldn't wait. You just said there's 1.5, but there's going to be a buyback that's going to come back on Buffalo, on the weekend. Once it does, people are waiting for, if you like Buffalo, people are waiting it out. So I would say, wait another day or so, right? Let the sort of the momentum continue here with the Baltimore stuff. But there's going to be a good buyback time with the Buffalo Bills. As Babano's saying, 1.5 popping up right now. All right, so the UNLV Running Rebels up 32-30 late in the first half. I think we got them +4.5. They're getting 3.5 right now. I think that the Rebels will hang on if you want to jump in. And the Oklahoma Sooners have cut the lead to 3 with under 7.5 minutes left. All right, thanks to Matt for stepping up tonight at Master Control. We'll see you on the Thursday Night Throwdown. Other than that, you're on your own later.